Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. This is a heads up weather for the Ozarks on Thursday, recording this just afternoon. And of course, unless you've been under a rock, you realize we're in for some pretty good snows coming up this weekend. And while we will avoid the ice, maybe get a little bit of sleet in northern Arkansas, but for the most part, no ice even near us. But it will be a bitter cold weekend over Saturday, Sunday, and even into Monday. Let's dive in, take a look at the overview, and then examine some of the details. On the visible satellite loop for the whole U.S., amazingly fair weather in this area that's expecting to get walloped here pretty soon, that area right there. We have kind of a west to east flow here. I'll show you the 500 millibar on top of this. So even though this does represent a sinking down of a trough of low pressure and a lot of bitter air up here, at least for the time being, there's a lot of movement from west to east. So that cold air is settling in, but doing so slowly, and we'll get a reinforcing shot tomorrow, Friday, that'll help to set up the winter storm, which you can see in the upper atmosphere at the 500 millibar level is what this is. You have a low just off to the west of Los Angeles, and it's the flow around the backside of this right here that's going to interact with this Arctic air and cause all the troubles. Well, a winter storm warning is in effect for all of southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas. This begins basically Friday at about 6 p.m. and lasts through 6 p.m. Sundays. So it's a 2 solid day event. And as I hinted at, or did I can't remember, but if I didn't, this looks like there might be 2 rounds of snow. And so the first round is going to probably fall in line with that, in Springfield at least, that 4-inch total or so, but the second round could double it. So this is a very interesting situation. We'll take a look at more details here in a minute. This is roughly what it'll look like according to one of the models. Friday at about 9 p.m., we're just starting to see western Missouri sort of getting approached by this snow here. Also northwest Arkansas. And then you'll notice there are very decent northeast winds setting up on the southeast side of this Arctic high, which sets up over northern Iowa, and that's the initial setup. Now, a lot of times for this first wave of snow, what this fights against is dry air. So a lot of times the snow that approaches here, it takes a while for that to overcome the low-level dry air, and so it remains to be seen if this band and this band can, how much they can overcome that and actually lay down some significant snow. But that's where that second wave comes in, Saturday night, early Sunday. That one would already have kind of a foothold and would already have kind of snow established, if that makes any sense. And it would be a little bit more interesting and a little more productive. So in terms of the National Weather Service, they issue a forecast. So if we look through 6 a.m. Sunday, which encompasses most of the snowfall that we're really talking about, Springfield, southwest Missouri, northern Arkansas, all in this yellow to orange. So we're talking about an 8-inch band if you look in the bottom left-hand corner here. So it looks like an 8-inch snowstorm, again, divided possibly in half by 2 separate storms. And that is significant enough right there. A couple of inches of snow. Okay, you get up to about 4 or 5. That's when the Weather Service decides whether this is a winter weather advisory or is it a winter storm warning. Well, they've definitely gone with the winter storm warning, as you've seen. Let's take a look at a couple of different outputs now. Now, we're still I look at still often the ensemble versions of the models. They tend to smooth things out a little bit more than the deterministic single run models, especially the shorter run models. They're very, very gung-ho on snow. Okay, so keep that in mind. But the ensemble model still has 10 inches of snow down there in Fayetteville, almost 11, and puts Springfield at 8 from the period Friday night through Sunday, the whole day. So if we take a zoomed in look at that, so Springfield is coming in at 8 there. This is a simple 10-to-1 ratio with 10-inch totals down in northern Arkansas, Joplin just shy of 8 inches, and upstate it diminishes quite a bit. Kansas City about 4, Columbia just about the same amount. If we go into Arkansas, you'll hear Fayetteville almost 11 inches of snow, Mountain Home 10. And we're getting close in this little area here. The mountainous areas of northwest Arkansas are coming in at probably a foot of snow for that same time period. So let's change gears and look at the EPS, which is the European version of the same idea. A lot of consistency here, 8 inches of snow in Springfield. And again, breaking that down locally, about the same in Springfield, about the same in Kansas City, a little more actually, a little less in Arkansas, but we're splitting hairs. We're talking about an inch or two of snow here. But whenever meteorology see consistency in forecasts like that, we take that to the bank a lot more than if this were all over the place. And it still does paint a pretty snowy picture, probably the max snow there in northwest Arkansas, but a little less so for that same time period. And then we'll take a look at the short range forecast. This is the NAM North American model. It is run on a 3.5 day cycle. It's typically a little bit more aggressive with most precipitation, but it's important to note that it spits out a foot of snow for Springfield. Now, do we take that as an outlier? I probably would, but it just shows you what the potential is. And again, I would divide that over two separate waves of snow, and I'll show that to you here coming up in a minute. And for completeness sake, we'll go ahead and take a look at Arkansas here. So Fayetteville is forecast to get over a foot of snow, as is Rogers, almost a foot and a half, with Mountain Home at about 10. Again, that's the more aggressive of all the models. And if you want to do what I just did and blend them all together, they have a product for that. So here's the blend of models. So this helps to kind of mitigate all those bumps. So Springfield comes in just shy of 11 inches, and it's really just shy of a foot across most of northern Arkansas. It looks like the dark blue or the dark purple is actually a foot. So there's some patches here and there of that. And this really kicks in southern Indiana, by the way, and goes all the way up into Pennsylvania. We can look at a time series. This is also enlightening, and this is the first hint that I want to show you of the double snow. So that short range model is in red here. So you notice there's a real spike Saturday morning through early afternoon. And then there's another spike overnight. So this is Sunday 6 a.m. right here. And so it happens overnight and then kind of levels off through the afternoon a little bit. Whereas those longer range models are a lot less enthusiastic. There's still two spikes. The first one's only 2 inches, and the second one gets us up to 6. So again, a blend of both of those probably makes sense. I would not be inclined to say a foot of snow in Springfield at this point. I would say when I first started looking at this, I was around 4 to 5 in the city of Springfield. I'd probably put that around 6 to 7. But as you saw, there's room for error here, and certainly as we get closer to the event, that short-range model may end up being absolutely correct. So if we want to time frame this, here's Friday midnight. We're looking at the short-range model again, the NAM, and it's just starting to snow across southwest Missouri at about midnight on Friday, and some of the heavier precipitation will be down to our south. The purple is sleet, which accumulates like snow, so it's not freezing rain, but it's pellets, so it takes more to actually accumulate any meaningful amount because they're smaller than snowflakes are. But still, where that line is can vary by 100 miles, I've found, just by looking at model data. So some of that sleet could easily get into northern Arkansas. It doesn't take much on the temperature profile to change that precipitation type. Then here's what's interesting. Saturday at 6 p.m., things seem to be tapering off. We have just light snow over central Missouri, the sleet and maybe snow down in central parts of Arkansas. But look what's happening back here. This is a second little short wave that's developing in New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. If we go to the next map here, which is Sunday at 3 o'clock in the morning, then we have this pretty good band of precipitation still developing. Again, that sleet and snow line, you could move that north or south 100 miles easily. So we could find ourselves in a lot of snow here, or perhaps mixed with sleet. So the catch is, if it's mixed with sleet, that'll keep the totals down. If it's pure snow, that'll tend to send the totals up. So again, that's a fine line, which, to be honest, is not knowable here on a Thursday afternoon, what's going to happen overnight on Saturday into Sunday. But we have the general variables in place. And then we still have backlash snow on Sunday at noon. This could accumulate several more inches of snow easily, especially upstate where you see the precipitation amounts heaviest. Okay, all that said and done, let's take a look at the temperatures. So this is what the Weather Service has got us for a high, for a low temperature on Sunday morning, by the way, 6 here. 5 in Springdale, only 3 around Clinton and Kansas City. The high temperature on Sunday will only be 12 here in Springfield. Kansas City will only be 9, so very, very chilly air here. And then on Monday morning, we drop to 7 below zero at least. So snowpack will definitely help that temperature fall. Look at Springdale, 11 below zero. Might be a little cold, but if their snowpack is deeper there, then that's a definite reality. And the high temperature on Monday will only be 14 degrees. So very, very, very cold air. And then the last thing we'll look at is a time series of the wind chill. So that's an important variable too. So if you look here, beginning on Saturday, here's Saturday, 6 a.m. So between that and Sunday afternoon, the wind chills never go above zero. So all the models agree that the wind chills will stay consistently between 0 and 10 below, and then may dip on Monday morning down from -10 to -20, before some relief finally sets in. That's the last thing we'll look at. I'll keep watching this, obviously, for the Ozarks. I'll probably do another local one like this tomorrow. I've been skipping every other day, but of course, this is a pretty serious storm that we're talking about here. So any changes to that outlook will probably be very relevant on Friday, and I will bring them to you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.